Modern gaming sucks, we can all agree there, right? All it is nowadays is free-to-play games with microtransactions, battle passes, expensive skins, and a grind so unrewarding that I begin to question my life choices. So, what do I do to cope with that? Well, I just sit back, relax, and just look back on the last 10 years of gaming.
This is my destiny! Here it comes!
Ooh, Spike's Video Game Awards 2012? Sam Jackson? It is still crazy to me that it's been exactly a decade since the Spike's Video Game Awards 2012. And man, did we have it good. I will never forget the opening to the show, where Carmen just beats up this hobbit and introduces the man himself, Sam Jackson. Back when I was actually excited watching it live on Spike TV of all places and looking forward to the next big game announcements. There were a ton of great moments from that show, like when they unveiled that new IP, The Phantom Pain, from a new studio, Moby Dick Studios? Yeah, you can't fool me, Mr. Kojima. In celebration of gaming, they showcase critically acclaimed games that define a decade, each worthy of their spot as they have left such an impact and I would say revolutionized gaming in the year they were released. They had a category for Character of the Year where they showcased the characters humbly accepting their nomination, and it was just very entertaining to see. And even though there is only one true winner, there are alternate videos of each character having an acceptance speech. It would have been so cool to see if they kept this category, but honestly it was for the best because the voices behind the characters are far more important. They need to be recognized. We want to know who delivered that outstanding performance of our favorite character. Also, Christopher Judge, please win Best Performance.
I'm a fucking god of war.
Spike's Video Game Awards 2012 was something else, man. And what a great year that was for video games. Literally, the only controversial things back in 2012 I could think of was the ending of Mass Effect 3 and like the entirety of Assassin's Creed 3. But then you hear that beautiful orchestra and you realize, wait a minute, this game actually slaps. And of course, I will never forget the Game of the Year winner, Telltale's The Walking Dead. Honestly, it was not a huge surprise for me at the time since the show was at the peak of its popularity. But it still astonishes me that this point-and-click game managed to win over the AAA nominees. And of course, we cannot forget about the Man of the Hour. When I think of the Video Game Awards, I think of Sam Jackson. He knows exactly what gamers want and how to deliver it. He allowed himself to be transported digitally into our favorite games to show everyone that he deserved to be granted the rank of master.
I'm the real Black Ops, motherfucker!
So yeah, just looking back at this for the first time in 10 years is just, wow, what a trip down a memory lane, really. Like, all this is just nostalgic to me, and like, man, it just transports me back into 15-year-old me where I thought everything was good, everything, gaming was just gonna get better, and like, yeah, I was stupid back then, alright? And yeah, I think this is like the last time I ever was on Spike TV because they like changed their format after this to the VGX. And yeah, that show was not good. I would give props to Jeff Keighley for like just changing the entire show completely. Like just let him, he's like, no, this is my show. This belongs to me now. And if you are wondering how vastly different the Game Awards are now, my pal Blastbox is going to give a presentation on the matter, as well as his overall thoughts on the 2012 show. Take it away.
The 2012 Spike Video Game Awards were a lot like the Game Awards we have now, except with a lot more of what people generally don't like. It had way more music performances from random music groups, more tacky gamification like Xbox Live and Xbox Smart Glass connectivity, and way more random celebrities that have nothing to do with video games.
I love movies!
I think it's fair to say in this regard, the current Game Awards are vastly improved, though the same can't necessarily be said for the awards themselves, or at least the categories. I actually like some of these categories that you don't see anymore, like a best game category for each platform, best song in a game, best adapted video game. I think those are all fun. The actual games getting nominated are pretty much the same kind of stuff though, a bunch of well-regarded, fairly populous titles with a curveball thrown in to satisfy the subverse. With the power of retrospect, the only real snubs, I would say, for Game of the Year were Far Cry 3, which probably came out too late to be nominated. Same can be said for Persona 4 Golden, although Persona 4 Arena did win Fighting Game of the Year, as well as Spec Ops: The Line and Virtue's Last Reward not being nominated for Best Narrative. Oh wait. The 2012 Game Awards didn't have a Best Narrative category. Can you imagine that today? People joke that the Game of the Year is a glorified Best Story category now. Oh, and also Xenoblade 1 released in America this year. I get that this game didn't have the mainstream appeal that the series would later see when it jumped to Switch, but still, it got nominated for Best RPG, losing to Mass Effect 3. It's fair enough for the time, though I don't think that verdict holds up great 10 years later. And it was nominated for Best Wii/Wii U game, but it lost to New Super Mario Bros. U. If gaming trends back then were like how they are now, Spec Ops: The Line would absolutely be a Game of the Year nominee. It checks all the boxes. Relatively big budget, high fidelity AAA action game, its gameplay is functional and absolutely nothing special, but its story was hailed as deep and mature and good. The Game Awards Orchestra! It was not called that back then, but they had an orchestra in this show too, just like they do today. This is always one of my favorite parts of the show, but here they make the really weird choice of having game audio play alongside the orchestra, so all these performers have to play while dealing with the sound of gunshots, blood splatter, bludgeoning, and, well, just a lot of those things. Not a ton of pacifist representation at the Game Awards typically, though representation is definitely an area where the show has seen significant improvement since the Spike TV days. A lot of those older categories I mentioned seem to have been traded out for many of the esports and content creator ones we see today. They make more room for less core gaming areas like mobile games and take time for things that, one could argue, actually kind of matter, unlike a lot of this show, like games for impact and games that make strides in accessibility. That's why I genuinely do think the Game Awards today are a pretty important deal for the industry. It does the best job at bringing every facet of the gaming space together and forces everyone to look at and acknowledge the parts that they would normally avoid or ignore. And if it didn't take that extra step to pull all of these parts of the medium together, then it wouldn't really have much business calling itself the Game Awards, you know? It's not perfect. It's far from perfect, in fact. But seeing the constant improvement, seeing how far the show has come in the last 10 years, I find genuinely encouraging. The show feels a lot more grounded now compared to back when it had
Best performance by a human male. Best performance by a human female. Best graphics. I love movies!
Thank you for your presentation. I'll be sure to give you a good grade. And yeah, and this year's Game Awards is right around the corner. Like, I don't know what game announcements they're gonna announce, who the winners are gonna be. Honestly, it's like between those two juggernauts of a game, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Fingers crossed on God of War Ragnarok, because that game was just blew me away. So yeah, let me know what game do you think is gonna win Game of the Year. I honestly don't know how to end this video, so I'm just yeah.
Wait. You're telling me that the Game Awards aired on Spike TV? The Spike TV? The one that used to show 1,000 ways to die? I'll tell you a way to die. Tell your friends you're a gamer in 2012. You're telling me the channel that had "Can you fart so hard your balls explode" on Mansers would then go on to say that God of War had the best narrative of all time? What room do they have to talk? I mean, I guess it makes sense, because 2012, you were on the back end of when gaming culture was, you know, rad 13-year-old boys playing games, ignoring homework, and bashing their sister's head in with a rock. And that explains why Sam Jackson would be there too, considering those same boys would be quoting Snakes on a Plane, Pulp Fiction, even though they never saw the movies. And it's pretty crazy overall how we went from such a taboo, almost grungy, edgy environment to now being on such a grandiose stage with Mr. Jeff Keighley. It really says a lot about how gaming culture has evolved as a society, and I personally think that's pretty awesome. I mean, even though it's kind of silly to be pitting games against each other and something that feels so concrete, even though it's completely arbitrary. It's still nice. It's a good time of year to get together with your friends and your family, have some hot cocoa, light a fire, and just enjoy something together. It's the reason for the season. It's the perfect time of year. And in the end, I think it really proves how games have really brought us together more than anything. Even though Bolt 3D came out in 2012 and it wasn't listed in the Game Awards, so really I think this whole thing actually is kind of stupid.